Just over a year ago, Jared Goff was considered a bust by the majority of NFL fans. But his red-hot start to the 2023 NFL season has him in MVP conversations, and that's what we'll be discussing in this video. Jared Goff has been one of the most hated quarterbacks in the NFL by all franchises and even his own. This is because he's a very streaky player, and a lot of people think that he should have taken to the Rams to more Super Bowls than he did. And these talks about him being a bust started in his rookie season. You see, Jared Goff was a #1 NFL pick, so a lot of people had high hopes for Jared Goff going into the 2016 NFL season. However, he did not start until halfway through the season because head coach Jeff Fisher did not believe he was ready. Well, he finally made his first start against the Miami Dolphins in week 9. The Rams were competitive in that game, but they came up short against the Dolphins, losing 14-10, and Jared Goff only had about 134 yards. Sadly, that was going to be foreshadowing for the rest of the season, as Jared Goff lost every single game he played that year. He ended up playing 7 games and had 1,089 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. This practically made him the worst starting quarterback in the NFL, and the bust talk started to commence. Rams fans wanted his head on a stick because we were basically the laughingstock of the NFL. But then came the 2017 NFL season. Jared Goff started off with a bang against the Colts with 306 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and they won the game 46-9. They then lost a close game to Washington and picked up wins against the 49ers and Cowboys. And in the games against the 49ers and Cowboys, he had over 550 yards passing and 5 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, and people started to take him seriously. Jared led them to an 11-5 record, and he had 3,800 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, and only 7 interceptions. The Rams made it to the playoffs where they ended up losing to the Falcons, but the Falcons went on to the Super Bowl, so that's not too bad. And Jared Goff's stellar play earned him a spot in the Pro Bowl. So at this point, Jared Goff had earned most people's respect. And this leads us to the 2018 NFL season. The Rams were red hot to start the season, and they have a very notable game against the Vikings in week 4. In this game, Jared Goff threw for 465 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and had a perfect passer rating. You literally could not have a better game from a quarterback. And 8 games into the season, Jared Goff was the lead MVP candidate. They then picked up a loss to the Saints, but Jared Goff was still playing amazing, and this leads us into the epic Monday Night Football game. Jared Goff faced off against the red-hot Chiefs, with Patrick Mahomes being in full MVP force as well. But Jared Goff ended up getting the better of Patrick Mahomes, winning 54-51 and having a stellar game. He had over 400 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions once again. The Rams played absolutely amazing and made it to the playoffs easily. They had a bye in the first round, beat the Cowboys, and then had a very controversial game against the Saints. But they got out of that game with the dub, and this means that they went to the Super Bowl against the Patriots. They ended up losing to Tom Brady and the Patriots, and Jared Goff didn't have his best game, so he was back on thin ice. Even though Jared Goff had an MVP-like season with over 4,600 passing yards, 32 passing touchdowns, and only 12 interceptions, people were still saying that he was a bad quarterback after his Super Bowl loss. And this leads us into the 2019 season, where the Rams played pretty well. They went 9-7. Jared Goff had 4,600 yards passing, 22 touchdowns, and here's the problem: he had 16 interceptions. You see, Jared Goff had a lot of scrutiny on him at that time after his poor play in the Super Bowl, and every time Jared Goff threw an interception, the average NFL fan would say, hey, Jared Goff sucks, he's a bust. They didn't make the playoffs, and everyone had a whole offseason to really think about whether Jared Goff was a good quarterback or not. And in 2020, a lot of people thought that Jared Goff should be on the trade block for the Rams because the Rams had such great players with Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, that they should be doing better than they were. And even though Jared Goff gave them a playoff berth with a 10-6 record, people still didn't like him. Again, any interception he threw was the end of the world to these fans. In the 15th game of the season against the Seahawks, Jared actually sustained an injury to his throwing thumb. And with that injury, he had to miss the last game of the season, but he still threw for 3,900 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. But then Sean McVay made a move that no one saw coming. Jared Goff was seemingly good to go against the Seahawks in the wild card round, but Sean McVay decided to start John Wolford over him. But John Wolford ended up getting hurt during the first drive, and Jared Goff had to take over those duties. And even with his semi-hurt thumb, Jared Goff did very well and led the Rams to a 30-20 victory in the wild card round against the Seahawks. However, he still had a big task ahead of him because the Rams were playing the Packers, who were the hottest team in the NFL at that time. And Jared Goff actually played very well, completing 77% of his throws on 174 passing yards and 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, but it wasn't good enough to beat the Packers. The Packers won 32-18. And this is where trade talks started to commence. You see, a lot of quarterbacks were not happy with where they were at, so it seems like we were going to be getting a quarterback carousel going at any moment. And one of the first moves of the 2021 offseason was a trade with Jared Goff getting shipped shipped off to the Lions and Matthew Stafford coming to the Rams. At this point, people thought that Jared Goff was sent there to die and that he was going to be one of the biggest busts in NFL history. And halfway through the season, that was looking true, as well as the Lions were 0-10-1. However, there was a bit of hope because his last 4 games as a starter, he went 3-1 to end off the season. And in those games, he passed for 9 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. So it seemed like the Lions were actually kind of in good hands and Jared Goff could be getting back to his old self. However, people still believed that he was a bust. And now that leaves us here at the start of the 2023 NFL season. Jared Goff has been putting up NFL numbers and has been looking like a true top 10 NFL quarterback. In week 2 against the Washington Commanders, he had 256 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions, looking like an absolute godly NFL quarterback. Through 3 games, Jared Goff has 750 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, and only 2 interceptions, and a very good quarterback rating. The Lions are 1-2, however, both those losses came to top-tier NFL talent that could be competing for the Super Bowl this year, and the Lions look like a team that could make the playoffs this year. And if Jared Goff keeps up this pace and has more games like he did against the Commanders, he could be in serious NFL MVP conversations if he brings the Lions from 3-13-1 all the way up to a playoff team. And that's how Jared Goff went from bust to MVP candidate in just a couple years. Let me know what you think of Jared Goff in the comment section below, and also leave a subscribe if you like this video. I'll see you in the next one.